speaker is an established software engineer, Alex. And the thing that's interesting about Alex is he has a different view of reality than most.
I've been coming here every Tuesday from 3 to 4 p.m. for the last year and a half. And the familiarity of my surroundings gives me a sense of calm. The feel of the couch's fabric, the smell of the room, the sound of my therapist's voice. It's the same every time. And again, that offers me a sense of calm. But what's been different the last few sessions has been what I see. Now, the rational part of my brain tells me that I should see the other side of the room with the wall and the painting that I could never quite figure out. But instead, I see a guardrail. And if I follow the guardrail around, I see it form a perimeter of a rooftop. In fact, it's my own office rooftop, the one I left an hour ago. And if I walk out to the guardrail and look beyond, I can see a city skyline that I know well. But if I look down, I see a long way to the pavement below. Trees with their branches and leaves waving in the wind, cars zipping along the lanes. We're starting at level 3 today, and already I can feel my heartbeat increasing. But I remember the techniques that we practiced. I remember to breathe in and out. Restore my sense of calm. But soon thereafter, the ground becomes even further away. Now the leaves and the branches are indistinguishable from the trees themselves, and the cars are tiny dots. My palms begin to sweat, and my heart feels as if it's beating out of my chest. I look around for the exit sign. I know it's there. I know I can leave the simulation if I want to. But before I can make a decision, I hear the voice of my therapist who's monitoring my vitals and feel the vision in real time as he says,
Remember to breathe, Alex. In and out. Focus on the rhythm of your breathing.
in and out. Back to calm. That continued for another 10 minutes, after which point patient and provider reviewed the data together, uncovering all the times when a stimulus caused a response, coming up with areas of opportunity for next session, but celebrating the small victories along the way. In fact, today was a breakthrough. Patient made it to level 6. Perhaps tomorrow he'll have the courage to join his colleagues on the rooftop for lunch instead of eating at his cube alone. According to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, anxiety is the most common mental illness in the US, affecting over 40 million US adults. And unfortunately, only about a third of those 40 million are actively receiving treatment. One potential treatment option, depending on the type of anxiety, is called exposure therapy, wherein the patient is exposed to objects that cause them emotional distress. And through controlled, repeated exposure to these objects, patients have a chance to decrease avoidance to them in the real world and conquer their anxieties. Unfortunately, exposure therapy can be cost prohibitive. Consider, for example, getting over a fear of flying. That could rack up quite an airline bill, because don't forget you're buying an extra ticket for your provider each time. Getting over a fear of public speaking will require you to rent out a room much like this and fill it with actors for each session. This creates a cost barrier that is insurmountable for most patients. But what you saw today is based on an actual prototype being developed by an Optum team in Boston. We believe that through rich virtual reality experiences, complemented by IoT sensor data, VR as a technology has the potential to positively disrupt the healthcare delivery arena, offering patients a more customized, immersive, and accessible care experience, and providers yet another tool in their medicine bag. And we're not talking about healthcare delivery in the behavioral realm alone. We're talking about anything under the sun. General healthcare and wellness education, post-operative protocols and physical therapy, the sky's the limit. So before we close today, I'd like to share with you some real data volunteered to us by one of the patients who's assisting in the build-out of the prototype. Now for this simulation, the team built a simulation that's based on this individual's greatest phobia. A few facts about this patient: avid motorcycle rider, big fan of skydiving, but a diagnosed fear of public speaking. But through repeated sessions in the exposure therapy environment, we see a marked decline in biometric response to the stimulus. We're pretty excited about that. And finally, the patient has also authorized us to show the simulation that was created for this experiment and the assisting of the build-out of the prototype, just so that you all could paint the picture in your minds today. And I can confidently report on behalf of the patient, you're doing pretty well in the real thing. Thank you.
And our last vignette is about blockchain. Blockchain promises to be the next big thing, as big possibly as the internet. Another software engineer, Arun, please come on stage.
That's good. So when you hear the word blockchain, I'm pretty sure Bitcoin comes into your mind. And when you hear Bitcoin, I'm sure blockchain also comes into your mind. These two are not the same, but they're related concepts. Bitcoin is the application that runs on a class of technology called blockchain technologies. Today, we are here to talk about the blockchain technology and how we can apply it to healthcare. To illustrate the power of blockchain technology, I want to start with a story. The story revolves around a physician, Dr. Bachu, who lives and practices in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. One day, he meets Ms. Parikh and falls in love head over heels. Things progress, and they decide to get married. So Dr. Bachu moves to Chaska, which is about 10 miles away from Eden Prairie, decides to practice in a clinic in Chaska, and changes his schedule to spend more time with his new wife. Then he does a couple other interesting things. He actually adopts his wife's last name. So Dr. Bachu becomes Dr. Parikh. He also, to demonstrate his love, changes his cell phone number to 612, I love you, right? So this happy sequence of events unfortunately unleashes a comedy of errors. So because the information has changed, the harried admin has to update several systems, as you know. So she goes and changes the information in a couple of their clinic information systems. Then she has to transmit all this information to multiple insurance companies. And on top of it, she also has to inform all the lab providers, right? Because she has to update multiple times, and it's all a manual process, right? Some she's able to do digitally, some she has to transmit via the fax, some she has to phone in, some through sheer snail mail. Because of this manual process, some errors get introduced. And as we all know, since there is no single source of information for provider information, in all corporate systems, the information is repeated. So nightly batches copy this information over and over again. And because of that copy, the errors are also multiplied over and over again. As you can imagine, these have consequences, okay? So let's run through some scenario. A new patient looks up Dr. Bachu's old number, makes a call, and finds out it's disconnected, right? So some disappointment. So he says, oh, I live in Eden Prairie, I'm gonna just walk over, I'm 2 miles from there, because the schedule says Dr. Bachu is still available, right? So goes in there, but the receptionist is actually an intern, and she doesn't know that Dr. Bachu and Dr. Parikh are the same. The database doesn't say it. So now the clinic staff is a little bit in panic mode, right? And then what they do is they figure out, of course, that it's Dr. Bachu's and not Dr. Parikh. And by the way, when they look at the schedule, he's available in the Chaska clinic, and by the way, it's only 10 miles away. The patient is so invested now, he hops in the car, drives over. But guess what happened, right? So the schedule has not been updated in Chaska. So actually, Dr. Parikh is not there. So now everybody's in panic mode. Okay, the patient is really unhappy, and the clinic basically starts paging Dr. Parikh, like, hey, please, can you take care of our patient here? Finally, of course, Dr. Parikh meets the patient, everything's fine. The story doesn't end there. A few days later, a claim gets filed. It goes to the insurance company, where Dr. Parikh's information was never updated. Therefore, the claim system kicks in and says, oh no, I'm going to deny the claim. And probably because this massive information which is not updated, it says, this is fraud, right? Of course, a fictitious example. You must be thinking, oh my gosh, this is such a contrived example. How big could this be? Well, turns out it's a pervasive problem, okay? And let's analyze why this problem's happen, right? There are four main reasons, you've seen it. So it's basically multiple versions of the same information, utter lack of data integrity, because there's a lack of checks and balances, right? And plus, no single organization is incentivized when they get the correct information to propagate to every other organization, because it's too expensive to manage. Siloed incentives, right? Turns out this is a massive problem. In 2017, one of the estimates is that we collectively, as a industry, spent $2.1 billion maintaining the correctness of this data together every year. $2.1 billion with a B. So what did we do at Optum? At Optum, we realized that this is a problem that needs to be solved. We did a proof of technology of blockchain. Works. We made sure that the concept works with the proof of concept. And then we got together with some of the other partners you see here who have the same problem and decided to get together and create a common blockchain application called PDX, or Provider Data Exchange, which is going to be the single trusted source of truth for provider information. Now, let me explain why blockchain is this disruptive technology. This has got four parts, which together forms this explosive technology. First, unlike current databases, which are centralized and disconnected, it's a distributed, peer-to-peer network, always in sync database. What that does is it avoids the single point of failure, and plus, it is built with security in mind from the ground up. Also, it uses cryptographic controls to maintain the data integrity. The second part, which is very interesting, is that append-only structure. That means, unlike the current databases, most of them, where an update comes in, you make the changes in place. In a blockchain, you don't change the previous information. You append it. So what you do is then you take that information, put it in a block, and then you chain it back to the previous records, another block, and so on and so forth. And therefore the word blockchain. What that does is that it allows transparency. You can actually tell what were the sequence of changes that happened to get to the current state. Because of the transparency, you have more trust, right? And plus, the other advantage of that is that all these blocks are tamper-proof. They're immutable. Meaning if you change one thing, it breaks the whole chain. And because it's network, the network rejects the change. Therefore, the trust is still high, right? The third part is that, which is called smart contracts. So within the blockchain, there's a provision to run software. So when you have this software that can be running, you can actually now automate contracts or policies which otherwise would be manual. Therefore, the quality goes up, manual labor goes down, massive cost reductions. Now, the fourth one is my favorite. We can actually create, just like the Provider Data Exchange, gamified applications on top, which aligns incentives and motivations to do the right thing, right? And you can build and reward systems such that it incentivizes good behavior, like in this case, maintaining the quality of the provider data, and disincentivize bad behavior, which is introducing errors, right? So these four parts together make blockchain so powerful. And that's how we're applying blockchain to healthcare in Optum, and hope this inspires you guys too. Thank you.
So we have about 6 minutes